Good morning. Good morning, my beautiful friends. This is your wake up call with Maui Paul. I am Maui Paul. We are here today to say some nice things about ourselves. And indeed, we are. Happy Thursday to everybody. It is a wonderful one. The weekend is nearly upon us. I see a whole bunch of folks who are already here. So, good morning, Dennis, Frank, Lauren, Dan. Dan's coming back from Omaha. He'll be in the ATL tomorrow. It'll be good to see you again, Dan. Grant is here. Shauna, Lauren, it is wonderful to see you ladies and Grant as well. So thank you guys so much for being here. We are going to pull a card off my deck. I'm going to ask you if you are the affirmation on the card. And what I'd like for you to do is to say out loud, I am that affirmation. As we speak these words out loud, we get to hear them, which means we get to believe them. And as we believe them, it changes the way that we think, it changes the actions that we take, it changes the way we respond to the world. And as we respond to the world differently, we have different opportunities that are available to us. We have the world responds to us differently back, and ultimately that is the way that we change. So I am really excited to do this with you guys. Let's have some fun by saying that today I am direct. I am direct. I communicate clearly and honestly. So I am direct. I communicate clearly and honestly. You direct? You are direct. You communicate clearly and honestly. And I'm going to write that down in the chat. That I am direct. I communicate clearly and honestly. And it looks like I was the first person to type that this time. Yay. Good morning, Jeff or Jeffrey. I see that you have arrived. You're here with your rubber chicken sitting beside you. Well, I'm so happy about that. Anyway, yeah, we are direct people. We communicate clearly and honestly. And if there is one thing that is uncommon in the world around us, it is directness. We are trained from a young age to believe that we need to take into account everybody's feelings all around us. And I see it all the time how people just refuse to say the thing that they mean, and to their own detriment. I mean, I remember that there was a time in my life where I was so concerned about what other people around me thought that I would not just advocate for myself. And it never, ever, ever worked out. Because by the time I got around to advocating for myself, I was so angry about whatever it was that had been bothering me, whatever it was that I hadn't been honest about, that there was just really no way to continue having a relationship after I finally spoke up for myself. Or that when I finally spoke up for myself, the people that, the person or people or group that I hadn't been being direct with, they were just, it was a shock to them. It was a surprise. They thought all was well, even when all was not well. And I see it over and over and over again. I watch, I was at the store the other day, and I was just sort of like watching this interaction between these two people, and they were talking, and then the one person walked off to the other, to a different part of the store, and I was kind of in their general vicinity, and then I heard them complaining about the conversation that they just had. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, but you just told the person that you were talking to something completely different. So how on earth can they expect to, how on earth can they expect that they can trust you? It's you know if you're not going, if you're going to say something different as soon as you leave. And so I was just thinking about that as I was doing my shopping. But it was an interesting experience just to kind of be privy to that. um, I've recently been, interviewing for jobs, and one of the things that my new boss, actually my new boss's boss, was talking to me, and he said, how, what do you value in a boss's boss? And I said, well, I value directness. I said, just tell me the thing that you will need to tell me. If you have something to say, and it isn't really pleasant, that's fine. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. I need directness and I need predictability. So say the same thing over and over again and just be direct about it. And when you do that, you will find that I'm an excellent person to work with. I'm very easy to work with because I will also be just as direct with you, I promise. And I feel like that's something that I feel like that is something that the world needs more of. Amanda says she's either direct or quiet, and when we are direct, I think that there is a very what's the word that I'm looking for? There is a temptation to just be quiet when somebody is saying something that we don't agree with. And I'm a huge fan of that. I'm a huge fan of being quiet when somebody says something that we don't agree with. As long as it's not personally affronting to us, or if it doesn't affect us. Like when somebody wants to tell me their opinion and I really don't agree with it, but I agree with their right to have that opinion, I'll just smile and nod and be like, "Okay, well, I understand where you're coming from. Thank you for telling me about your perspective." Worked great in the tour guide industry because you never ever want to agree with somebody. Um, you never want to agree with somebody on some controversial topic because the person next to them might not, might not agree. I remember that. So I used to work as a team of two on this tour guiding company. We would take people up to the top of Mount Haleakala, and so we would have one person was driving the bus, and then the other person was given the tour, and that's just how it worked on that at that particular company. And I remember that I was working with this one guy, and he was he was direct, but not in a very good way. But he was he was talking about the fact that Monsanto was over on Maui and over on Lanai, and they are. And he made no bones about his opinion about GMO food and about Monsanto and about what he thought about it, which was not very nice. Well, we get up to the top of the mountain, everybody's being quiet. We get up to the top of the mountain, that guy gets off the bus. I stay on the bus, and I'm continuing to, I was the driver, so I stay on the bus. I'm like, okay, thank you, and I'm just kind of chatting with the people who were there. And I said, so, what brings you guys out to Maui? And they're like, oh, we work with Monsanto. We work with a seed cord company. And I was like, oh boy, so you've just been being perpetually offended by my coworker, haven't you? He's like, yep, we sure have been. It's like, great, there goes our gratuities, where this is going to end up on TripAdvisor. But in the end, we want to make sure that we want to make sure that we that we are direct, but that we are communicating clearly and honestly with people. But let's not be offending them in the process of doing it. So I went and told my coworker, I'm like, you realize that you've just been shitting on these people's profession like for the last 2 hours, right? And they're paying you. Stop it. Oh boy. So anyways, it is important to communicate directly. It's important to communicate honestly. It's also important to be empathetic about the people around us. And yeah, so that's so just one way that I learned a valuable lesson about making sure that you don't just agree with everybody around you, particularly when we're in a group. So I love to use the words I understand. I understand. I understand where you're coming from, and even whether that's my opinion or not doesn't matter, but I do understand where you're coming from, and I respect your right to have an opinion about the topic. And so that seems to be what the folks on our bus were doing, because not one of them called my coworker to task for insulting their profession and insulting one of their major customers. So anyways, we are direct people. Clarity and honesty is the best way of doing this. And so we commit to doing it, or to communicating directly. So I will directly communicate, and I know that you will as well. And I feel like I'm surrounded by a lot of people who are willing to do it. Dennis says he's recently started being more direct and learned that it invites more people to actually connect into his life. Couldn't be happier with who he is and who he is becoming. You are becoming a beautiful person, Dennis, and thank you for that comment. But yeah, that's something that directness will do. That's something that honesty will do. Honesty is so refreshing. So many people are conciliatory and not in our own best interests. And I know, because I've been one of them my whole life. And so this card always speaks to me and always encourages me to just say the thing that I mean, and say the thing that I mean with empathy, with love, and to do it in such a way that, hey, even if I'm completely wrong, that's fine. We can communicate about me being completely wrong, and that's a totally okay thing. And even if it causes a little bit of short term, even if it causes some short term conflict, it circumvents a lot of long-term bitterness. And I would rather have a little bit of short-term conflict, which I found is usually very easy to navigate, because once people understand that they are respected, it doesn't really matter if their opinions are agreed with. So I don't agree with a lot of the things that my friends think, and that's fine. But I love them and respect them, and more importantly, respect their right to believe what they want to believe. Because I don't know everything. I have been wrong plenty of times before in the past. I will be wrong again in the future. And by allowing other people to have their perspective and by talking candidly about mine, we all end up having a better mental clarity about what is true. And that's the important thing about communication. So we are direct people. This card invites us to be direct today. To yeah, so like Brenda Jean says, I am direct. I communicate clearly and honestly. I work on a softer delivery. I like that. I like that phrase, Brenda Jean. A softer delivery. We can always deliver it with tact, and when we deliver it with tact, that gives us a natural advantage. Okay, one more story. I was talking with a friend of mine who had some conflict with another person that I don't know, and they were talking about, they were basically frustrated and venting to me and talking to me about how stupid this other person was, and said, I'm going to call them out on it. And I said, if you call them out on it, I said, you have a right to communicate however you choose. But if you call them out on it, they're not going to listen to you. They are going to, they're just going to think, oh, I'm being called a name. And so since I'm being called a name, it will short circuit all of their logic and they will not want to listen to what you have to say. I said, you have to, first of all, approach them like a human being and respect their perspective, respect that they have the right to have it. And once you get past that point, once you guys understand that you respect each other, then and only then can you broach the topic of, I don't actually agree with you, and this is why. And maybe they'll listen to you, but people would rather be right. Most people would rather be right than to be, or that most people would rather think they're right than actually being right. And so I said, so if you have this conflict, that's fine. Or if you have this disagreement, that's fine. But the best way to handle the disagreement is to first connect with them and then broach the disagreement and ask them, like, hey, why do you think the way that you do? I think this other way. And I can respect your opinion, but I'd like to, I'd like to know, because I told him, I said, you're otherwise friends with this person. You guys connect on a lot of different levels. You don't connect on this particular level. Well, what's up with that? It's like, you respect them, you respect their life choices, you respect their intellect, you like them and hang out with them. I said, so why create meaningless conflict? So if you can agree to disagree, or perhaps you'll change their mind, or perhaps they'll change yours, because all of us have the ability to change our minds, if we are presented with different and good information. So let's go be direct today. I am going directly to my to-do list. I want to say thank you guys so much for being here. And yeah, we will talk tomorrow at 9 a.m. We will have another wake up call. I want to say thank you to everybody who has come by today. I see that Robert and Sylvia and Brenda Jean have joined the broadcast. Good morning, guys, and thank you so much to Jeffrey and to Dennis, Amanda, to Grant, to Susan, to let's see here, Frank is here as well. Lauren, it is good to see you guys. So I'll talk to you tomorrow at 9 a.m. We will return with another positive affirmation. Until then, just a quick reminder: I love you and care about you, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. And see you later. Also, Kelly, I see you have joined the broadcast as well. So until tomorrow, aloha from paradise.